The last day of death row, inmate Michael Bernard Bell, executed for mistaken identity. Hello friends, and welcome back to Deathwatch Diaries. Tonight, we revisit a case that shook Jacksonville, Florida in the early 1990s, and has now led to an execution scheduled for July 15th, TWIP. The man at the center of it all is Michael Bernard Bell, a figure whose name is tied to one of the most tragic examples of mistaken identity ever seen on death row. At just 23 years old, Bell armed himself with an AK-47, intent on avenging his brother's death. But in the haze of anger and vengeance, he pulled the trigger on the wrong man, gunning down two innocent people, Jimmy West and 18-year-old Tama Smith, outside a crowded bar. What followed was a revelation of other crimes, painting a picture of a man responsible for multiple lives lost. Stay with us as we walk through Bell's past, his trial, and his final day. And don't forget to subscribe for more prison documentary stories. Michael Bernard Bell was born in 1970. Growing up, his life was marked by poverty, instability, and exposure to violence in his Jacksonville neighborhood. While there is little detailed documentation about his childhood, what is known is that Bell developed a reputation early on as a hot-tempered young man, someone who often allowed emotions and pride to control his decisions. By the late 1980s, Bell's life had already veered into criminal activity. In 1918, when he was just 19 years old, he crossed a line from petty troubles into unthinkable violence, riding in a car with a young woman, 19-year-old LaShawn Cohort, and her toddler son, 2-year-old Travis. Bell abruptly turned on them. He forced LaShawn to stop the vehicle, then shot both mother and child before calling a friend to come pick him up. This double homicide was not solved immediately. For years, it remained one of Jacksonville's unsolved mysteries. That act foreshadowed the violent years to come. To those who knew him, Bell seemed unpredictable, dangerous, and increasingly consumed by anger and resentment. Fast forward to 1993. That year, Michael's younger brother, Lamar, was killed by a man named Theodore Wright. According to investigators, Wright shot Lamar in what was legally determined to be self-defense. No charges were filed. For the Bell family, however, the ruling only fueled resentment. Michael Bell was enraged. He told friends and acquaintances that Theodore Wright had taken his brother's life and that he would find his own way to balance the scales. This obsession with revenge set him on a collision course with tragedy. On December 9, 1993, Michael Bell was outside a Jacksonville bar when he spotted a yellow Plymouth parked nearby. To Bell, this car carried deep meaning. It had once belonged to Theodore Wright, the man who had killed his brother. What Bell did not know was that Wright had sold the car. Its new owner was Jimmy West, a local man with no connection to the Bell family feud. That night, Jimmy West arrived at the bar with his friend Tama Smith, just 18 years old, and another young woman. Bell, still burning with anger, believed he had found his target. He called for an AK-47 rifle, which was delivered to him by an acquaintance. As Jimmy, Tama, and their friend left the bar and opened the doors to the yellow Plymouth, Bell stepped forward. Without hesitation, he unleashed a hail of bullets into the car. Jimmy West and Tama Smith were both struck multiple times and killed instantly. The third woman, by sheer luck, ducked down quickly and survived. But Bell's violence did not stop there. He turned the weapon toward a crowd of bystanders gathered outside the bar and sprayed gunfire in their direction. Miraculously, no one else was hit. Bell then fled, heading to his aunt's house where he boasted that he had just killed the man who had killed his brother. The tragic irony is clear. Bell's rage had been misdirected. He had mistaken Jimmy West for Theodore Wright and taken the lives of two innocent people who had no connection to his vendetta. The investigation into the double murder stretched on for months. Witnesses from the bar came forward, pointing to Bell as the shooter. Two prison inmates even testified that Bell had admitted his role in the killings. His girlfriend revealed that she had helped him purchase the AK-47 just a day earlier. But what truly shocked investigators was what they learned after Bell's arrest. They began linking him to other unsolved crimes. The 1989 murders of LaShawn Cohort and her little boy, Travis, were tied back to him. And only 4 months before the Jacksonville bar shooting, Bell had murdered his mother's boyfriend, Michael Johnson, during a heated family dispute. All told, Bell was now believed to be responsible for 5 murders spanning from 1980 to 1993. In 1995, Michael Bell stood trial for the double homicide of Jimmy West and Tama Smith. His defense team tried to claim that he acted in self-defense, arguing that Jimmy West had been reaching for a weapon inside the car. But the evidence, combined with eyewitness testimony, painted a far different picture. A calculated act of revenge carried out with an assault rifle against people who had nothing to do with the killing of his brother. The jury convicted Bell and recommended the death penalty. His history of violence, his coldness, and the sheer recklessness of his actions weighed heavily in the courtroom. Bell was formally sentenced to death in Florida. For 3 decades, Michael Bell has lived inside a cell at Florida's Union Correctional Institution, the same facility that has housed many of the state's most notorious inmates. He has filed appeals, challenged evidence, and attempted to delay his execution. But in case after case, his legal arguments have been rejected. His name has occasionally surfaced in discussions about Florida's capital punishment system, especially as prosecutors and courts highlighted how a single act of mistaken identity created a ripple of destruction across multiple families. Now, more than 30 years after the Jacksonville shooting, Michael Bernard Bell's execution has been scheduled for July 15th. In the days leading up to his execution, Bell has been moved into what is known as Deathwatch, a section of the prison where inmates awaiting execution are monitored closely. He has been allowed visits with family members, lawyers, and spiritual advisors. Like others before him, he will also be given the option of a last meal, though Florida caps the allowance and requires it to be prepared by the prison kitchen. On the night of his execution, he will be transported to Florida State Prison in Rayford, where the execution chamber is located. At 6 in the evening, witnesses will gather behind the glass pane as the curtain rises. Bell will be strapped to the gurney, an IV line inserted into his arm. When asked if he has any final words, he will be given the opportunity to speak. If everything proceeds as scheduled, the lethal injection protocol will begin, and within minutes, the life of Michael Bernard Bell will come to an end. The tragedy of Jimmy West and Tama Smith is especially haunting because they were strangers caught in the crosshairs of mistaken identity, paying the ultimate price for a feud they had no part in. For more than 3 decades, Bell has sat on Florida's death row, his fate delayed by appeals. But now his final day has been set. As Florida prepares to carry out this sentence, families on both sides continue to carry wounds that may never fully heal. Justice, in cases like this, is never simple. It's a reckoning that echoes for generations. If you want more prison documentary stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Deathwatch Diaries.